Good morning. Good morning. So excited to be here with you all. I was just saying to our little yogi on Zoom that we've got people who are returning from, I feel like, all corners of the globe at this point. Yeah. I know. Everyone's returning from four corners of the globe and wanting to just catch up and talk about life. Oh, it's so good to see all your smiling faces. This is wonderful. Thank you for getting here this morning. It's a gorgeous day outside. I mean, it's just amazing. I was kind of joking with myself on the way here. I'm like, maybe we can open up the windows. We're not quite there yet. But how are your bodies? Anything that I should know about what you brought with you today and what's needed on the mat?
Got some knee stress.
Knee stress? Are you noticing it when you go into like deep bends, or is it just kind of there all the time?
Well, no, I've been doing a little running.
Running created some impact.
Yeah, but it's just a little swollen.
Okay. Yeah, so just be careful about, like, when we're cow cat or whatever. Remember, if that's bothering you, you can always put like a folded blanket or something, because I feel like I go through periods where I'm more sensitive to that kind of pressure on my joints, and other times it's just no big deal. Yeah. Anything else going on? Well, it's perfect that you're all seated, because that's actually how we're starting. We're gonna do some really nice just warming up for the body. I know I've had some people who are like, oh my God, I haven't been at the mat for weeks or what have you. So we're just gonna try and get our lymph pumping, our spinal fluid pumping, because that really changes everything about how we move. And of course, we'll get into breath before just jazzed you're here. So seated like this, just with our feet forward and kind of out. And we're just going to start by gently letting one knee come down towards the center line and then the other. We do this sometimes laying flat on our backs, but we're doing a seated version. And ultimately, you might then release your back hand and let it reach. And sweeping and releasing that other back hand and reaching. And you can kind of continue with the head if it feels good. I've been thinking a lot more about fascia, which I tend to talk about with you guys, and I think about anyway, but I'm reading a book, The Pain Cure, and it's all about fascia. And so, when you're doing something like this, reminding you that you literally have this contiguous fabric over your feet, all the way up your legs, your hip, all the way to your scalp. So when we're making wonderful rotations and elongations and tractioning like this, we're tapping into that. So let's see if it doesn't bother your hips or anything to do so. See if we can speed it up. Letting momentum become a part of it. And you can marry your breath or just have the breath stay really slow, deep and wide. Inhaling, find the gap. Exhaling, find the gap.
Is anybody else like moving down their mat?
Yeah. Interesting. Scooching off the end of their mouth. Last couple. Alright. And then hold, if you would, one direction, and we're going to do a kind of retract and reach. So you're kind of pulling that elbow back, and you can, even rotate your torso a little towards the ceiling if that feels good. Think of this as just, almost like yawning, when you first wake up or whatever. You're just like, feel your way through it. You can even make little noises. Let's go to the other side and see what it's got. This is a move I often do when I'm in our lateral stretch in our warriors, is that pulling back the elbow into the ribs and then reaching again, because it kind of lubricates all those tissues through the lat muscle and the intercostals that are such a big part of our breathing and our shoulders. Again, remember, you can rotate towards the ceiling. Last one. And come on back. We're gonna just come onto our backs and right into happy baby. So whether you're clasping ankles, blades, big toes, using a strap, we love to have the spine along the floor. So tailbone tilting down, Shoulders anchoring down, neck relaxed. Moving into that breath wave, gently rising and settling. And you might enjoy adding a little half straddle. For me, it really makes a difference if I just plant my upper arms and elbows so that my extending leg is just sort of landing in the support hand. And I'm not having to kind of hold my arms off the floor, which I find just creates a little more neck stress. Yeah, and you can point and flex the feet. Again, you can even feel with your hand how you're impacting that entire muscular and other tissues line all the way up the leg and all the way down to the feet. Yeah, and at some point, if you'd like, bring those heels together in butterfly. Some of us enjoy just being here and breathing. Others like bringing one foot towards the head, doing a little windshield wiper. And you might even let it roll you a little to one side. Throughout our practice, I encourage you to let your body tell you what's needed, what's the right angle, what's the right length of time to hold a pose. We'll plant our feet wide for horse riding stance and simply raising the hips up and releasing a little or even all the way back down, but a lovely kind of pumping that, as I think of it, helps WD-40 the hips. Marvelous. And we're going to cross our right ankle onto our left thigh. Normally we do that with the feet closer together, but I want to offer to you to try it with this position of, say, the left foot all the way at the left edge of the mat, and see if you like it. If you cross that right ankle onto the left thigh and you let everything dip down to the right. So I'm letting that crossed right leg bring the left leg down and center. And if I add a reach of the left arm, well, now I've got, I heard some good out there. Awesome. Got some good stretch again into that deep front line. And of course, coming out of this gently, safely. So I always bring the arm, returning it back towards the body to stabilize so that I can come back to center. And now I'm actually going to come into my reclined pigeon. So I'm going to keep that ankle crossed. Sorry, I didn't give you a heads up. You can't read my mind. We've known each other long enough. And hugging the right knee and maybe the foot. I find that sometimes I can architect a just better edge, a better angle if I'm holding on to both. And of course, sending it a little towards the center line. Yeah, I'm hearing some people tap into their Ujjayi breath. Beautiful, great sounding breath. Ocean waves, wind in the trees. You know, just the both of those elements, it moves stagnant chi, stagnant energy, so very useful. And when you're ready to come out, I find it's helpful to replace the left foot in this case, and then take my right leg and just kind of bend and straighten, kind of kicking it. And again, that kind of just flosses and massages and lubricates all those connections through the joint. We're establishing a new normal. And again, I'm going to start with my feet, or my right foot in particular, out at the side of the mat. I'm going to cross my left ankle onto that right thigh and encourage it all down and towards the left. If this bothers your back or anything, you could either skip it entirely or potentially, you know, walk that right foot a little more towards center, and that might feel better to you. You can play around with it. Again, reaching the right arm up. And just because we're holding the pose doesn't mean that it is stagnated. Maybe you want to pump again. You kind of bend the arm and re-reach, bend and re-reach. Maybe the head rolls to the right and to the left again. Deep belly breaths until you feel ready to come back to center. Walk that foot in until you can safely bring the left knee towards you. Perhaps also the foot. Holding, exploring, breathing, sending it all towards the center line. Notice how the expansion of the inhale creates the edge, the massage. Right? The shape itself is useful, but it's really that upper edge of the inhale that it creates the change. That's why I call it the change agent. In your own time, releasing, maybe giving that leg a bend and straighten, a little kick. And then we're going to settle our feet into butterfly, soles of the feet touching, settled on the floor. And for a moment, just letting those knees settle to the outside with gravity. You could work your shoulder blades a little underneath you and down, and notice that that can just subtly but powerfully reduce the pressure in the upper back and neck. And if you'd like, raising the hips off the floor, not far, just a couple of inches is usually plenty to create that vibrant effort in the lower glutes, inner thighs, what I think of as kind of our rooting muscles. And practicing breathing slow, deep and wide, light connection, tip of the tongue, turning the gaze up and in. Throughout our practice, attending to the gaze is very powerful. So either closed eyes up and in, or throughout our practice, settling your gaze open, but in that kind of soft, daydream-like focus we call drishti gaze. And it allows us to still then have the eyes open as necessary, but to be seeing inside the body. So right now, seeing, where is breath touching you? What are you feeling? When you feel complete, coming out and just letting those legs straighten out into a bit of a V. Then we'll come into abdominal pumping. So staying in corpse pose, you're going to inhale, exhale, empty, and hold out as you begin pumping, drawing the belly in and pressing it out. You might just be curious, what's in there today? How big of a breakfast did I eat? But this is not just our digestive center, right? It's also our emotional center. So how much hurry, how much worry, what's life been like? And if it's felt kind of intense, this is a nice time to just lift some of that energy up and move it on. When you're complete, let's do sign breath. You guys sound good. All right, guiding the knees into the belly. Nice deep hug. Your body might just love this counter shape. Hope it does. We're going to come into a spinal twist. One more twist. We're doing a bunch of them today. So I'm just going to take my knees all the way to the left and use my left hand to anchor the top leg. Feet are flexed and then reaching actively behind with that right arm. It might feel great to extend your right leg into your left hand. This can bring a lovely stretch into the hip and thigh, specifically IT band areas. And you might just give a little pressure to bring that foot closer to your ear. And when you feel complete and ready to move to the other side, always bend that knee again, feet flexed, shifting the knees to the other side, either in one motion or have it open the book, close the book. And the more you explore angles with your arm, you really bring the benefit of this twist into some really subtle places. Again, feel free to move your head, notice what feels good, including potentially extending the leg. And I find with my leg extended, again, it's that very last, like 10% of inhale that will create like a hamstring stretch here. You guys feel that? Some of you are like, no, and I'm like, yeah, well, your hamstrings aren't that tight, obviously. And we're gonna come up onto hands and knees. If you wanna just kind of press up from your side stretch or you want a spinal rock. Notice if you do feel the need for some padding under the knees, make your joints happy. Speaking of which, intelligent hands, but if your wrists don't like that, moving to fists, beautiful. And let's come into cow-cat. One of the simplest postures that we have, these two, and yet quite powerful, profound. Noticing the last 10% of inhale or even 2% of inhale in your cow pose and where it stretches you. The next time you're in cat pose, spine rising to the sky, hold, look out over your right shoulder, sending your ribs to the left. You can add little organic movements like sending the hips back towards the heels and then switching other side, ribs to the right, looking out over the left shoulder, hips maybe pulsing back. And then we'll come into our first big core effort, and yet it's a very small movement. You guys know this one, table with limbs, releasing from the floor and initially just hovering the hand and opposite knee off the floor so that you can notice subtlety. How are you compensating perhaps? Which muscles are working and are you breathing? And we'll switch slowly to the other side. Soft tongue, drishti gaze on the mat. And you might continue with just that or move from your hovering to limb extension. Please, if you're doing that, give extra attention to getting both the arm and the leg fully straight. Hiya. And then a slow return, like there's almost a hot surface that you don't quite want to put your hand and knee back onto. That slow return really works the body in some very interesting ways that we don't get a lot of in daily life. So it's a different kind of strength, very useful. If you'd like, you might add a little extra challenge to the core by taking the limbs just a little out from center. It's not a big movement, you're not going 90. And breathing, softening in all the ways that you can, and engaging in the ways you should. Make sure you do a complete cycle right left if you remember where you were. And we'll come into our first downward facing dog together. Please bend those knees quite deeply to start with. You can always play with pedaling or even straightening. But that deep bend should allow you to get a wonderful long line from the hands all the way to the hips. And if you really let those shoulder blade wingtips kind of tuck in towards the spine, towards the body, you'll end up with a bit of a massage, I hope. You feel lovely. And pedaling, massaging those legs. We're going to come into a little spinal pumping. If your wrists are up to it, we'll be doing upward facing dog, downward facing dog. Remember, you can do a knee down version if you prefer. You would just drop the knees, but still let the hips drop down. Heart draws forward. Belly shortens to take you back, either child's pose or downward facing dog. Breath, initiating motion. Inhaling, asking, is there more? Ujjayi, exhaling. Your drishti gaze will land between your feet in downward facing dog. Let's do one more. Marvelous. And we're going to come onto the knees. And I'm going to invite you to settle back into child's pose. We're going to do thread the needle. If you prefer a seated version or the table version, go for it. Otherwise, hips as far back as they can go, hands forward. I'm going to take my right hand and I'm going to reach under the left arm, coming under my right shoulder. I want you to notice where your generous inhale touches you in this pose. Give it enough room, but also let it kind of create some intensity on the inside. On an exhale, returning, both hands forward and switching left arm, reaching under right. Big massage. I hope you're feeling touch at the shoulder blade area where we so often wish we could get a massage. I always like to say every inhale is like a little love note to some part of your body. And on an exhale, returning back to center and tucking that tailbone to come on up. We're going to come into our gate pose. First big balancing pose of our practice. We're going to step back. Let's step back with our left foot. I'm trying to do more things in my life non-dominant side leading, and man, it's hard to reprogram. All right, squeeze that right butt cheek towards the left edge of the mat until it kind of opens you up into your pose. Left arm reaching, looking down perhaps, if your neck is not appreciating the effort. Speaking of effort, make sure to galvanize that right waistline to lift up. And maybe you could just lift that back foot. And slowly release through table. And bring that right foot out behind. Left glute squeezing forward. And we pretty much all need to self-check, where is my head in alignment? More often than not, it's going to be forward unless I check in with it. Soft drishti gaze, maybe on the wall, the floor, tuning in to your breath wave. Nice, you guys sound great. Slowly releasing back to table. And if you need, give a little wrist love up. We'll be returning to downward facing dog. Nice breath taking you there. Powerful core. Ever so slowly take that right leg flying, maybe roll the ankle, maybe you're opening up the knee. What does your dance look like this morning? Slowly bring that right foot forward and out to the right edge. So nice and wide. Good. Inhale, rotate, open through the right arm. Nice twist. Exhale, release, and step back. Little up, down, down dog, or you can always just hold and downward facing dog will meet you. And we'll take that left leg flying. Maybe we're opening the knee, maybe we're rolling the ankle. Either way, nice core support, and bring that left foot forward to the outside. So again, the core is lifted here, hopefully really reducing the weight in that right hand. Left arm reaches open, twisting. Oh, where am I going? You got it. As long as you're moving and breathing, you're good. And step back. Invitation for plank to chaturanga, and we'll meet all the way on the floor. If it's your first plank chaturanga of the day, I recommend knees down so you can really watch those shoulders. If they come up even a little bit, it's not good for them. And we're going to extend into jet airplane and bring my hands back. That feels good to get off those wrists, doesn't it? Make sure the shoulder heads are circling down and back. And if your eyes are open, they're right on the floor, right below your nose. A couple more breaths. I often will release completely out and then let that next inhale create flight. Again, a lovely way to massage that amazing body of yours. And if it feels appropriate to hold for a breath or two, you might play with slicing one arm forward, one arm back. And in your own time, releasing back, downward facing dog. And then walking the hands back to the feet, right dog. Nice deep full compression breath. Inhaling and extending halfway up. Exhaling, tuck the butt to chair. Bobbing on that breath wave. Hello knees, hello thighs. Remember, you can always be a bar stool. You don't have to. Inhale, root and rise. Exhaling, step sideways on your mat for straddle. Let's go that way. And we're just right away going to go side to side. Again, anytime we work our side body, both stretch or strengthen, we are tapping into a whole other level of intelligence and well-being, and often tightness. Yeah, it might feel good to get all the way to the floor with the hands, and you can even let your head hang. Notice in your body when it feels appropriate to pause to one side and breathe deeply. And letting the breath create the edge. Finding the other side. Nice core support. And as you're ready, bringing those feet in a little bit, knees bent, and see what it would feel like to bring your hands together in Yoga Mudra behind you. If you need a strap or a scarf or sock, go ahead and grab it, because we definitely want to be able to get those arms straight. Yeah, might feel good to rotate a little bit, and you could be doing a standing version with me if that's better in your body. And as you're ready, you'll just release those arms back to the floor, bringing your hands to your knees for a little bit of support. Come on up and just extend those arms, please, in your 5-pointed star. Think about those feet rooting, those arms extending out from the heart. You guys look great. Yeah, so strong and so peaceful. I feel like in the end, that is really what yoga gives us, that combination. If your ankles feel like they need a little break, do that. That's why I brought them in for a bit. Otherwise, what we're gonna do is bring them out. Got it. We're going to inhale and sweep the arms up. Exhale, rotate your right foot 90 in warrior and settle those arms, warrior 2. One big breath wave, bobbing. Knowing you don't have to hold long, you get to go deep. Inhaling back up, straighten and turn your feet neutral. Exhaling, turn the left foot 90. And now you kind of get what we're doing. We're gonna do this a little bit back and forth. Full breath wave, bobbing. Always check that that back foot is rooting and that it's pushing. That's gonna stabilize the knee. Inhaling back up center. If you'd like, you can add a little kind of hip forward heart lift. Exhaling, rotate that right foot 90. Maybe you're adding platter hands, maybe you're looking behind you. This is your warrior 2. Inhaling, sweeping up. Exhaling, rotating left foot. Platter hands. And your arms might be saying hello. Let's do one more. Right and left. Nice Ujjayi, drishti gaze might be off that middle finger or the wall in front. Okay, we're gonna end on our right side. So right foot turned 90. Got it, go deep, go deep. We're not gonna hold long because we're gonna straighten the leg. Inhale, reach up, exalted warrior. Exhaling to your lateral stretch, and you remember that pumping motion we did with the arm when we're on the floor. I'm gonna reach and bring that elbow back to my ribs, and I'm gonna reach, make it organic, feel it go where it's needed. And as you're ready, we're gonna rotate out of this and step back, downward facing dog. Intelligent hands, intelligent feet, stay facing the direction that you would, which should be the back of your mat, back of your. You got it. You don't need to see me. You know dog series. Inhaling to your plank, knees or feet. Shoulder heads anchor, so important. Exhaling, chaturanga, maybe just a 1-inch elbow bend. And you might be practicing your cobra, your upward dog, or maybe you're hungry for more jet airplane. Exhaling, press back, downward facing dog. Sighing breath, holding, resting, whatever you need to do. And then we'll walk the hands back to the feet, brave dog. Let the head get heavy, really get into gravity, full breath. You guys sound good. Inhaling, extend halfway up. Is there more breath? Exhaling, tuck that tailbone to your chair pose. If you'd like a little balance challenge, come up on the balls of the feet. And on an inhale, root and rise, and on an exhale, step again, same direction in your straddle. So we're facing east, those of us at Family Learning Center. Same direction you had before. You got it. What's that? Y'all good? Okay. Inhale, sweep those arms up. Exhale, go right. Same thing we did before, warrior 2. You got it. Inhale and exhale here, nice breath wave. And inhale up. Enjoy that last bit of inhale, especially if your hands are together. That stretch can be magnificent. Exhale, turn left, and we're gonna hold here. Nice breath wave. Inhaling, exalted warrior, reach up. Exhaling, lateral stretch. Find that pumping motion. You know, so sometimes I'll reach forward and I'll actually rotate my chest a little towards the floor and look at the floor. And then when I'm pumping, I might rotate and look up a little bit. Again, kind of twisting. Think about, you know, a kitchen towel and how when you twist it, you can move, you know, more water out of it, right? Than if you just squeeze it and bunch it up. As you are ready, nice strong core, rotate, plant the hands downward facing dog. You're now at your front of your mat. And settle into your dog and moving into dog series or any alternate, right? You could be doing cow cat. Inhaling to your plank, knees or feet. Exhaling chaturanga. Inhaling either cobra or perhaps upward facing dog. Nice neck. You guys look good. Downward facing dog. And we'll walk the hands back to the feet again. Ragdoll. You can play and do a nice little different version of ragdoll. You can take your feet a little wide on the mat. That'll get you again into that side body a little. Yeah, you can sway. I'm liking what I'm seeing. You could do yoga mudra again because you're like, oh man, I need that. Lots of options. So standing here, actually bringing your feet back in under you as you would for mountain stance. So bringing them back in, bending the knees, nice core support. Just release, if you would, your right foot straight back. And I've got my left knee, my standing leg bent a little, and that's fine. You just want it for sure straight forward. And you should be able to see your right foot hanging straight down. So if it's rotated out to the side, rotate it straight down. You got it. Let's slowly switch. It's an interesting amount of work, isn't it, in that back of that raised leg, especially if you've got your heel flexed. My hope is you feel it in your glute. Nice breath. And release. Good. Inhaling, drop the butt to root and rise. Big glute squeeze up here. And prayer hands. Let's pause. Drishti gaze. Grounding. It can be a lot going up and down like that, right? On equilibrium, blood pressure. So just take a few breaths and center it. Lovely. On a long inhale, root down in order to rise up. Exhaling, prayer hands, standing crane, left knee lifts. Nice breath wave here, soft tongue and gaze. Exhaling, step back to your high lunge or crescent lunge. So you're on the ball of the back foot. Steer those hip bones, right hip bone back, left hip bone forward. Inhaling, we're going to sweep up, and then exhale, just rotate once to the right, nice open arms. Inhaling back to center. Exhaling, hinge forward to your jet airplane arms. Inhaling, sweeping back up. You can always add little back bends if that feels good. Exhaling, opening to your warrior two. You've been here before. Hopefully you're all warmed up. Check that front knee is tracking. Maybe you can go a little deeper. Long inhale, reaching up. You could keep that front knee bent if you're liking that thigh work. Exhaling, we're going to bring our right elbow to the thigh, and some of you might want to explore going further, whether it's hand to the block or to the floor. That's if you can keep your hips where they were. In other words, don't let them go out behind. Bring them back in. So the body should be flat like it's between two panes of glass. We're going to do a little fun hip stretch from here. So I'm going to rotate and plant my hands as if I was going to downward dog. You're not going to. You're going to walk your right foot over towards your left hand. Caution knee, ankle, and hip people. Just make sure you've got lots of core support. And see if you can organize to let that right knee settle towards the floor. I don't mean onto it. It's actually suspended. You got it. And you're going to do a little bit of like a push-up here. So core support. I am not letting my body settle towards the floor, but I'm going to bend my elbows like I want to kiss the earth. Kiss the earth and tell, yeah, oh, hello, hips. Got it. Good. And then I'm going to come back up and I'm going to drop that back knee for a nice, safe release, bringing that right leg out behind, and then I'm going to rotate and circle that knee. Beautiful. Inhaling cow pose, exhaling cat. Whenever we do, these movements like tailbone to crown, again, it can be so transformative. So all the hip movement and opening we're doing. And as you're ready, we'll move to our downward facing dog. Nice core support. Maybe a sighing breath, drishti gaze between the feet. It might be child's pose, so find a place to celebrate. We're gonna find ourselves at the front of the mat once more in our mountain pose. Some of you might still just love that walking the hands back to the feet. Some of you might have ragdoll here. Over the next few breaths, we'll find each other in our mountain pose. Once again, centering. Soft connection with the tongue. Soft drishti gaze and ujjayi. And a long inhale, root to rise up. Remember, you don't like that. Standing crane, right knee lifts. Bobbing on the breath wave. Maybe wobbling on the breath wave. High lunge, crescent lunge, steer left hip bone back, right. Inhaling up. Exhaling, rotating left, so it's taking us into a spinal twist. So you want to go that way. You got it. Inhale. Maybe a little heart opener. Exhaling to your jet airplane. Hinging. Nice long from that back heel through the crown. Inhaling up. And you can do prayer hands if you're like, man. Opening Virabhadrasana too. And even here, you can let the arms just hang out, right? Or if you're too intense, then don't do as big of a stance, or just don't go as low. Find a way to let your body be strong and peaceful here. Inhaling, reach. I usually look down at the mat, my neck prefers it. Forward towards lateral stretch. So this is where you really want to watch yourself, that there's behind. It's like you're moving between two panes of glass. Yeah, and see if you can get that back shoulder, if you can keep integrity and send that left hand down inside of the leg or on the block, by all means do, if it feels good. And at some point, you're going to be ready to rotate out, walk that left foot all the way towards that right hand. If I remember correctly, I call this Brad's hip stretch. Brad was the one in our training at Apollo who introduced us to this, and we were all like, oh. You could be on your back knee, by the way, if that feels just safer and easier. And then the key is core is lifted, elbows are bending to kiss the earth. I don't mean that you really will. And at some point, drop that back knee if you didn't already to release that left leg. Give it a nice rotation. And we're going to come into our front body quadricep stretch. So for those of you that love being on the floor for this, come on down to your belly, otherwise you're going to use that standing option, right? So we're going to bring one forearm pelvis for that first ankle. And I'm going to hang out here. Put my forehead onto the forearm and really soften into this stretch. Is that if I hold a good 6-7 breaths and make little adjustments and breathe deeply, I can feel almost like a roaming massage. It just keeps expanding through. If you're not getting your knee a little more towards the center line, you can even think about like almost lifting it up off the floor like you're trying to point at something behind you. When you feel complete, you can release, and sometimes if people feel like they're about to like cramp or something, you could curl your toes under and kind of flex your heel back. That gives you that alternate stretch. As you're ready, you'll reach back for the other ankle, and either on the floor or standing. Always bringing the bent knee back in towards the straight leg. Squeeze of the glutes that stay. Stretch. What are you noticing in your body today? Again, from here, you guys just look so strong and so peaceful. Hopefully there's some good discovery. We're finding where our funky spots are. Where are we weak? Where are we too tight? At some point release, give it an alternate shape. Those of you who like bow pose, inviting you to reach back first for one ankle, then the next. This is obviously not an option as a standing pose. Yogis have done some amazing things. Anchor that pelvis and then let those ankles pull back on the hands, opening the chest space. Yeah, try to keep that neck long and neutral, right? With that shoulder blade sandwich. Ribs, and when you're complete, release, either settling on belly or maybe as your low back requests it. Different than when you came. Just kind of neat to notice any shifts. To come into a supported posture with our block or something like it. I'm using this nice hugger mugger kind of soft. Always lay down first. Don't lay down over the block, lay down and raise the hips. Place the block under the sacral triangle. And there are two distinct positions here. Both have their benefits, and assuming that they both feel good to you, definitely spend time. Knees bent. I can let my low back settle in kind of a welcome tractioning. You know, I know some people are probably out there already doing some sort of gardening or firewood or both. It can be a lot on the back. And then the other version with the legs straight, the body draped. Such a nice answer to all of the sitting that we do. If you feel like your pelvis kind of dumped forward and down at all, you want to shift the block a little bit down. Always stay as long as you need to. Never stay so long that you feel tension gathering. This is purely meant to be therapeutic, restorative, balancing. And then let's give a counter shape of knees to belly or happy baby. Do a little spinal rocking side to side, might feel good. One more little round of play on our, which is kind of nice because you don't get all of the wrist intensity. It can be helpful to have a block. It can be more helpful to have a block that isn't. And if you don't love this next adventure for any reason, your great alternative is working with continued limb extension like we did in table and so on. Because again, anytime we are extending the leg like that, floating, happening in glutes and back line is really valuable. You know, most of us think of our back body as just too tight. We're like, but I don't need more tension in those hamstrings. Except weirdly, most of us have a pull through there that's tension that comes from being not neutral, right? Coming from being a little bit hinged forward as we walk or we focus on what we're doing or what have you. So what we're actually looking to do is to shorten and tighten that muscle so that it holds us in a balanced way. So we're playing essentially with being, I'll show you, in forward fold, having your hands on the block or what have you, you can also have them on the floor. The standing knee does not have to be straight, as I mentioned. And you're gonna play with having this leg, first of all, actively straight, toes down. And then we're gonna squeeze the standing glute, just as like we did in gate pose, towards the center of the line to open it. So we're gonna go closed toe, open 90. And then at some point, if it feels appropriate, you're gonna release your hand and bring it onto your hips. And we're gonna play with it. It's an approach to standing half moon pose. So again, if you wanna just go and redo gate, you could always do that as well. All right, so first, check in that you're in your breath and you're in your core. I wanna get a nice like compression expansion going. Okay. Then raise your first leg and look underneath you and see if you can see your toes straight down. Then from there, rotate the hip open, but don't send the leg to behind you on the mat. So if you've got your left leg raised, check that it's not going to the right. Just straight back, but opening through the hip. You got it. Walk your hands back. There we go. And you play with that until it feels appropriate, if it does, to hold in that open position. And maybe release your hand. So if you've got your left leg flying, it's left hand on the hip. Oh, beautiful, beautiful. So it really takes the squeezing of the glute of the standing leg to make that opening happen with integrity. Yeah. And you might want to walk your hands back. Forgive me because I did not give a clear cue about where to have your hands or your blocks. They should be really quite close to your feet. Some of you have your hands kind of halfway between forward fold and downward dog. A lot of work, right?
It is.
A lot of heat.
Yeah. Big muscles and more.
Yeah, we just had a heat wave here. We just had a global. Okay, let's open the windows. If you want to, feel free. Awesome. When you feel complete, I want you to come up and do a little standing hip pump with me. Squeeze and release. Squeeze and release. Nice work. So any questions or noticings about that? Because I want to get there again. So again, forgive me that I did not give that cue about the hands being back, because one of the things that you're doing until such a time as you choose to extend the spine is that you are in a deep, deep fold. And it's only after your leg is open and is kind of opening your body that you come open like this. Whereas some of you were kind of forward like this, and that's gonna feel, you're not gonna have a standing foot, you're not gonna have a foot to stand on, and we really want that. Okay, so we're gonna kind of come into some version of that, but a little bit of a different way. It's kind of fun. So go ahead and just straddle again if you would. We'll face the east. And let's everyone take your left foot 90. That'll allow you to be sort of facing me and can see what's going on. Good. So I'm gonna bend that front knee really deeply and just check and see how it's feeling. Good. And then I'm gonna just see what it would take to reach forward through my left arm and just play with launching through that back leg. And so I'm going back and forth. So I'm propelling, a little bit of flight, yeah. And there's really no way to mess this up unless it's bothering your joints, right? So this is just about feeling your weight shift and having to go from motion to balancing, and then you can just spread the arms too. I like doing this kind of version almost of standing half moon because it's actually a little more approachable than getting there from a fold. A lot of us can't straighten that standing leg, whereas here, I'm hoping you can. And when you're ready, see if you can just hold, rotate those arms so that they are perpendicular with the floor, which will put you into your standing half moon without the hand on the floor. Okay. And then you can come on down. Go ahead and do what you gotta do. So I have you guys in this version with the hand completely off the floor, right? And the traditional pose, your hand would be on the floor or a block or something. But the other reason I do that is, again, a lot of us, if we've got our hand all the way down there, we're just so bunged up in this side of the body. There is a version where you can use the wall, which can be fun, and you guys might want to do this at home and just play. And you just do what you just did. You come into your warrior two lunge, you launch, but then you have the wall to lean against, and you can go until your body is 90. Whereas if we're coming from the floor position like we were doing earlier, you get kind of, again, too short through this side, and we're really supposed to be long. Sometimes I'll play with it with like a chair under my hand. It's more like the right height. All right, let's come into straddle again. Same direction. Again, you don't need to see me now, you know what you're doing, right? Turn your right foot 90, get a nice kind of bend and straighten in that front knee. Check, please, that your knee is tracking with your foot, and try to correct it now so that as you launch through that back foot and go back and forth again. And I'm playing with my foot. I'm letting my front foot release a little bit when I land on my back foot. So I'm kind of rolling from foot to foot. I've got my right arm reaching out in front of me, playing with that. Ooh, this side's harder for me. Or is it just that we're more tired? You too? It's easier for you? Okay. And at some point, if you can, hold, see if you can reach your other arm out, so almost like a hug emoji. And then at some point, try to rotate towards that perpendicular with the hands and the floor. And we're not holding long, suspended. Come on out, bring those feet neutral and fold ragdoll. So it's also a nice fun little way to work in some cardio, that active kind of launching and landing. But again, a little bit of fast twitch muscle when we push off, which unless you are a runner or a jump roper, where you run up the stairs at home, which I'm trying to be in the habit of doing, is a great way to kind of work those fast twitch muscles. Nice work, folks. So I'm going to ask you to notice what kinds of recovery poses your body might be wanting. Do you want classic pigeon? It might be a nice work for that line. Do you want another reclined pigeon? Do you want to come into another spinal twist, the kind of gentle kind? I know we've been doing some very active twists. We will all meet up in about a minute and do the bra strap support. So if nothing else is coming to you, you want to go there first, you certainly could. We'll be closing with that supported pose and some pranayama and a little more of kind of core ignition, but in a way that's a little less intense than what you've just been doing. Tune into your heart rate, celebrate that heat that you created. That, you know, part of the reason yoga is so profound is because of all the heat building it does internally, detoxification of the organs and the adrenals and so on. So that's why we breathe through the nose and not, you know, panting through the mouth for the most part. When you're ready to create your supported pose with the object under the bra strap, you've heard me say it many, many times, you want to sit, have the object behind you, and recline over the object, and have something at the ready in case it is too far to the floor for your head. You want to have your sweatshirt or a folded blanket or something. I'm happy to be your runner. Anybody thinking they need a blanket or anything else? We can always substitute the block entirely for a rolled up blanket. If you do that, you really want like a tight roll, like a little log, because we're wanting to encourage these ribs right in towards the body. It's that tucking in of the shoulder blades that happens that's so powerful. Yeah, so scan your body. If you sense any changes needed, let me know. I'm hoping you might be able to roll your head a little side to side. And if it's feeling great and you want to explore then the shoulder activity, taking one arm at a time. Palm towards the center line, reaching out beyond the head. And then pulsing the arm towards the ear and away. And I find the more active and straight the arm, the more massage experience you'll get through this whole shoulder girdle. And of course, at any point you'd like, switch. And it's a fun place to notice what's in your neck, because so much of what affects our neck is actually down in the shoulder girdle, in that upper back and chest and those lat muscles, right? Yeah, so maybe rotating the head this way and that. And of course, you're welcome to stay in this supported shape as long as you'd like. At any point that it's feeling like it's gathering tension, you come off, roll a little to one side. Yeah, and notice when you come flat, excuse me, what that's like. What does that spine neutral feel like? This is actually a particularly powerful shape that allows our spine to decompress. And I'll point out that there are plenty of people who never actually end up completely flat, who, get into bed and have a big old pillow behind their head, pressing their head off the mattress. Once again, shortening the front line and pulling on the back line. So one of my favorite subtle add-ons, both here, and I actually do when I usually first get into bed, is to reach your chin a little up and back, intentionally kind of shortening the back of the neck, and you might wiggle your chin a little side to side. Just helping some of those muscles remember how to soften and creating space again in that spinal chain. Then please notice what support, if any, would make your resting time today just perfect. As I mentioned, we're going to be doing a little pranayama breath practice. They say that 10 minutes of focused breath practice replaces about an hour of lost sleep, which I find to be thrilling, because so many of us don't get the kind or amount of sleep that we would love, at least not every day. And it's a really hard thing to be the best version of ourselves, which I think I can say pretty confidently we all want. We feel a desire and an obligation to bring the best version of ourselves out into the world and to everything we do and love. It's very hard to do that when you feel fatigued, tired, depleted. So we're going to do two different kind of, as I think of them, really restorative breath practices here. The first is the box breath, and that's where we breathe in 4 equal lengths. An inhale, a holding in breath lock, and exhale, a holding out breath lock. And that's why they call it a box. It's 4 equal sides, if you will. And I find for the first couple of rounds, I'm having to tweak the length to have it feel natural, neither too fast nor making me feel breath starved. So as you're ready, you'll inhale to the count of 4, your 4. Hold in to the count of 4. Exhaling over the count of 4. And holding out for 4. Some people like counting, some people like using a mantra instead. It's however you want to do it. We'll be here for a few minutes with box breath. Notice if the mind wanders and return it to breath attention It's one of the gifts of breath in general, but particularly box breath, is it's meant to be very mentally focusing and quieting. And notice thoughts and bring them back to breath attention. We can do this 100 times. That's part of the practice. Two minutes. One more minute of box breath. I invite you to notice how it's feeling and hoping perhaps you've settled into a really natural rhythm. One of the gifts of breath practice is the beautiful opportunity to tune in to our own heartbeat, subtle sensations that come with breath practice. And even noticing if there are aspects of it that are perhaps a little uncomfortable. Breath locks in general can be that way, and we're going to be moving into our more extended version of breath lock. Our inner landscape more. A lot of life takes tension away from that. Okay, the next time you've completed your box, let the breath practice go. You can always reset with just a deep, long breath or a sighing breath. And then as you're ready, we'll be coming into just a couple of minutes of breath locks themselves. And the difference here, of course, is that we're holding out and then holding in as long as possible. So not to 4 counts or what have you, just as long as possible while softening around it. That's the key. So if you find that you can't soften around it and you're building tension, it's time to release. So take a nice, just natural inhale, exhale, empty. And it's a light emptying. It's not compression breath, getting every drop out, just a normal exhale and hold out. The more forcefully you exhale or the more breath you'll need to inhale. And again, like, oh, how long can you hold? It's how long can you stay present with the sensation of the breath lock. So you can architect those layers of intensity by doing bigger exhales and bigger inhales if you like. And in a few moments, when we move to our yogic sleep, I'll be offering a shoulder press. If you'd like me to skip you today, would you please just raise your hand now? I invite you to notice how the sensations between holding in and holding out the breath locks varies for you. Both the physical sensations, one is a vacuum, the other's not, but also emotionally. Do you find them both relaxing and peaceful? Is one a little stressful for you? I often say that I love breath locks because it gives us a safe place to explore our discomfort and practice softening around it, knowing that we can breathe whenever we want. If you're looking for a little more meditative quality to life, a little more spaciousness, adding some breath lock practice every day could be quite profound. You, of course, can do it throughout the day. You don't have to be on your yoga mat. I don't recommend doing it while driving. But other than that, so notice if you feel like continuing it now as kind of a meditation practice, or if you'd even like to come to seated meditation, or simply let the breath effort drift away entirely, letting your breath settle into the soft, quiet breath of a baby sleeping, as you give your body to gravity, softening down, down, down. Completely aware of my voice, inviting you to deepen your breath and come into a loving body scan, just guiding your appreciation and curiosity attention over and through the body. What's there? What's needed? Appreciating your own amazing, strong, resilient, wise body and good heart. Thank you so much for bringing them all to our practice today. Om Shanti Shanti. Namaste. Thank you so much, everybody, for getting to the mat with me today. I look forward to seeing you soon again here. Namaste.